Hello and welcome to Picture This, a podcast from the photo archives of the Albuquerque Museum. My name is Jill Hartke, and I'm the curator of digital collections here at the museum. Today we are climbing to new heights with Benny Fox, a champion flagpole sitter. In the Albuquerque Museum's photo archives is a photograph of Benny Fox holding a glass of milk in front of a Chandler automobile. Here's the story behind the photograph. The photograph was taken by Alabama Milner as part of a promotional campaign around the first anniversary celebrations for the Chemo Theater. The Chemo Theater opened in Albuquerque on September 19, 1927. A grand opening ceremony drew 2,000 people to the new theater to watch cartoons and films on the screen, along with performances and awards. Although the theater's owner, Albuquerque, died about 6 months after the opening, the first anniversary festivities were once again a major event. The Albuquerque Journal, labeling itself New Mexico's foremost newspaper, bankrolled a human fly named Benny Fox to come to Albuquerque for the anniversary. During the 1920s, skyscrapers were constructed across the United States, which brought about the advent of the human fly. These people would scale tall buildings, sometimes doing stunts on the top. Benny Fox was a well-known human fly who had not only scaled tall buildings but also walked across lakes and rivers on a tightrope. By 1928, he had become a world champion flagpole sitter, which is just what it sounds like. He would scale a flagpole and sit on a small platform at the top of the flagpole for hours on end, trying to break records for the longest amount of time at those great heights in the elements. This fad was a crowd pleaser during the Roaring '20s. People were amazed by the aerial performers' endurance and fearlessness. But it was dangerous, and several human flies fell to their deaths. In September 1928, Benny Fox came to Albuquerque to climb a 60-foot flagpole on the roof of the Chemo Theater and sit there for 100 hours. He planned to ascend at 3 p.m. on September 12th and descend at 7 p.m. on September 16th. If he succeeded in staying up for that full time, he would make a brief appearance inside the Chemo Theater to his adoring fans, and then go host a large dance at the Armory, after which he would sleep on a Sealy mattress in a shop window on South 1st Street. There were plenty of skeptics, people who believed that at night these human flies would sneak down the flagpole and only climb back up when the sun was rising. To counter those doubters, Benny Fox agreed to have spotlights on him at all times, and he invited people to get permission to come to the roof of the Chemo and shout questions up to him at any time, just to be certain he was still up there and awake. By 1928, Benny Fox had been a stuntman for nearly 2 decades, and his father and grandfather were stuntmen before him. The acrobatic training he had was crucial, and he was dedicated to safety and comfort. As much as you can be comfortable on a small perch high in the air for days on end. Before agreeing to the publicity stunt, Benny consulted his wife, Nano Fox, a nurse, and his private doctor, J.W. Hilton, with whom he traveled. They both investigated the city's food options and decided the Court Cafe would be the official restaurant to handle Benny's diet while he was up on the flagpole. His food mainly consisted of dairy milk and toast. The food was brought to the roof of the Chemo by a Court Cafe waitress, then hoisted up the flagpole on a rope. Benny also insisted upon music to keep him entertained and awake during the stunt. For 22 hours a day, he listened to his favorite records on a Victrola, but from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m., he listened to a radio broadcast. These preparations were barely enough for Benny to attempt the endurance feat at all. When the day arrived, his doctor insisted he wasn't healthy enough to complete the full 100 hours, so the ascent was postponed until the following afternoon. Around 3 p.m. on Thursday, September 13th, after being cleared by his doctor, Benny Fox scaled the exterior of the Chemo Theater, climbing over the edge of the roof and up the 60-foot pole to his perch for the next 100 hours. Before he'd even made it 12 hours, he was shocked by the temperature fluctuations in Albuquerque. The difference between 3 p.m. and 3 a.m. was approximately 40 degrees, and he began doing exercises to keep himself warm. Benny admitted he never knew there was such a difference in the temperature in Albuquerque, and he didn't seem prepared for it, as reporters began to doubt his ability to hold out for the full 100 hours. As time wore on, Benny's strength diminished. Not just a feat of climbing or doing stunts, flagpole sitting was more an endurance of the mind, because the person usually needed to stay awake and alert throughout the event. At his healthiest, Benny Fox was barely 100 pounds, and the elements were wearing him down. Toward the end of his 100 hours, Benny shouted down to the people on the roof of the chemo that he'd like to do some stunts on the flagpole and on the edge of the building for the crowd of some 3,000 who came to watch him. However, his doctor once again stepped in, saying he was not strong enough. He was truly exhausted, and a stunt he had done in El Paso the week before had left him needing medical care afterward. He descended at 7:30 p.m., and although he managed to make it through the 100 hours, he could not perform either on the roof of the theater or at the dance held that evening in his honor at the Armory. The newspaper reported that nobody who attended the dance seemed to mind. Once the Great Depression hit, the allure of flagpole sitting went out of style. But that didn't dampen Benny Fox's spirits. He headlined Benny Fox's Star-Spangled Circus as half of a duo of flagpole dancers known as the Sky Dancers. They climbed flagpoles and danced on 2-foot-wide platforms at the top. His partner was called Betty Fox, whose actual identity changed over the years, but it was his wife Nano for a brief period of time. After World War II, his promotional reach dwindled, and it's hard to find information about where he ended up, but photographs show that Benny continued to perform acrobatic feats well into the 1960s. Thank you for joining us for Picture This with the Albuquerque Museum. Please join us next time for the story behind another photograph in the museum's collection.